Sephardic-Turkish Meringue Cloud Cookies, also known as Ashuplados. How adorable are these cookies? They're super delicious, and the best part, 2 ingredients, 3 if you count the nonpareils on top. And they're dairy-free and flourless, so they're good for any meal all year round. Sally, that girl, in the kitchen. Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sally, that girl, in the kitchen. In today's episode, I'm going to teach you how to make ashublados. You're probably thinking, what on earth is this woman talking about? Well, ashublados are basically little cookies, little clouds of meringue. That's all they are, but that's the way my Sephardic Turkish grandparents would have called them, and they are just super easy because they're free form. We don't have to pipe them or shape them any way special. We just put them together, scoop them, bake them, and they are super yummy. They're just a sweet little cookie, easy to make and good for any time. So I'm super excited to teach you how to make these. So let's not wait another second and let's get started. All you'll need for today's recipe is 3 large egg whites at room temperature. I like to pull the eggs out of the fridge a couple of hours before I'm ready to make my cookies. And you'll need 1 1/3 cups of sugar, and technically that's it. You can also add nonpareils on top for some color and extra crunch, and they look super pretty, but that's totally optional. You'll also need a large cooking sheet, 2 small bowls, some parchment paper, a large bowl, a couple of large spoons, such as some serving spoons, some dry measuring cups, and you'll need a handheld electric mixer, or of course, you can also use a stand mixer. And you'll also need a silicone spatula, a cooling rack, and some oven mitts. So now that we have all of our ingredients and tools together, let's get started. So the first thing you're going to want to do is preheat your oven to 400 degrees. We are later going to lower the oven, but we want it really hot to start. Now, we're going to break our eggs, but we're going to separate our egg yolks from our egg whites, because for this recipe, we're only going to be using our whites. And as I said a moment ago, I took these eggs out of the fridge a couple of hours before I got ready to start making my cookies, because I wanted my eggs to be at room temperature. They're just going to whip up much nicer and much quicker that way. So then just separate your yolks from your whites and you're good to go. Now grab your large bowl and you're going to add your egg whites into it, making sure that your bowl is nice and clean and very dry. Now, I put my handheld mixer near me and I'm measuring out my sugar because I'm going to add it little by little into my egg whites as I whip. So I want it nearby. So I start whipping up my egg whites, and my mixer has 6 speeds. So I'm starting at speed 1 or 2, just very gradually adding some air into my egg whites, and then I'm going to go up to maybe 3, 4, just slowly raising my speed, because all I want to do is start getting a little bit of air incorporated into these egg whites. So the good thing here is that to make these meringue cloud cookies, these beautiful ashublados, all you need is this electric handheld mixer, or of course, like I said, a stand mixer would be fine too. And then you're just going to add your sugar in little by little, and that is just the magic. You're going to whip that sugar into this beautiful white, cloudy, beautiful mixture. And then as I add my sugar, I'm just going to raise my speed a little bit each time. So now I'm up to about 5, and the goal is that I'm going to raise my speed all the way up to 6, but little by little. So I started a little bit lower, then little by little went a little higher, and now as I add my sugar, which I'm going to be adding it about 1/3 at a time. So I added 1/3, now I just added my 2nd third, and each time I'm just incorporating that sugar in order to create my beautiful meringue for my Sephardic-Turkish Meringue Cloud Cookies. Now, this recipe could not be any more simple. It's egg whites and sugar, and that's it. I'm adding my third of my sugar. So as I said, I split it into 3 parts and gradually added it in. And then now that I've added the last of my sugar, I'm going all the way up to my high speed, which on my handheld mixer is a 6. Now, I will explain that at this point, all that's left to do is to whip lots of air into this beautiful meringue. So if you prefer to use a stand mixer and not have to stand here and just continue to whip away, then that's totally fine. You can totally do that. I love to do this by hand. Of course, I'm using an electric mixer, but I love the process itself. So I always use my handheld mixer because I really enjoy the process. So it's going to take this mixture a good 25 minutes or so, at least using my handheld mixer, to create stiff peaks. That's what we're trying to form here. We are just letting our mixture whip away, and we want it to thicken up as it goes until we arrive at stiff peaks. So I'm going to show you what that means very soon, because as you can see, my mixture is thickening as I go. And as I said, it took me a full 26 minutes to arrive to the stage that I want to arrive at. But you can check your mixture in the process to see how thick it is and if your peaks are standing up. And once you reach that point where your peaks are standing up, then you are ready to go. That's how simple this is. Some people get intimidated by meringue. They just don't know where to stop, how far to go. But if you just look at your meringue, you're going to see how it's just leaving tracks as I go along. That's a great sign. That means that it's thickening up. You can feel the change in texture, which is another reason I like to use my handheld mixer, because I can really feel that change in texture. I can not only see it, but I can feel it thickening up by the resistance the blades are receiving as I mix this mixture. And if at any point you're making a mess or your mixture is spreading out too far, then it's okay to stop for a moment and just scrape down the sides of your bowl with your spatula to make sure that all of that yummy meringue is getting that nice fluffy air incorporated into it. And so now I'm pretty much ready to go. I'm going to show you what my peaks are looking like so you can see. See, these peaks are not fully stiff. They're kind of falling on their side. So I'm going to give it another minute or two because I do want my peaks to be stiff. And see how now my peaks are just standing up both in the bowl and on my blade. I am ready to go. So now I'm just going to scrape down the sides of my bowl, and I'm just going to bring all that yummy meringue into the center because it's just going to be easier for me to scoop it out. And I have my 2 serving spoons that are going to help me scoop these ashuplados out. So the thing about ashuplados is all we're doing is scooping this onto a tray that I've prepared with some parchment paper. There's no piping. There's nothing fancy. There's nothing at all intimidating about this recipe. I whipped up just some egg whites and some sugar, and I'm literally using some spoons to just scoop it out onto parchment paper. I love that about my grandmothers, about that generation, and these recipes that I love so much from their generation. They were just really practical. There wasn't any heavy machinery really needed or anything fancy. You don't need a piping bag. You don't need a tip. You got a couple spoons in your kitchen, you are good to go. I'm literally just using 1 spoon to scoop out some of that delicious meringue, and then I use the other spoon to help scrape off the meringue from the first spoon. That's it. It could not be any more simple. It's just super easy. And so what I do is I space these out a little bit. I'm going to be making 12 out of this batch of meringue. And of course, I'm going with a larger
cookie, you could make more and go a little bit smaller because these will grow in the oven. You're going to be impressed by how they puff up. They're going to look beautiful and totally freeform. There's nothing to this. You don't have to be perfect and precise. They're going to puff up. Some of them will crack, and it's perfect. That's what it's supposed to look like. They're supposed to be rustic and beautiful. So now, I'm using nonpareils because I love them, and these happen to be kosher for Passover so that we can serve these during Passover, which is fantastic because it's non-dairy. It can go with any meal, and as I said, these are good all year round. My grandmothers were brilliant because they would make these recipes that they could serve with pretty much anything. It didn't matter if they were serving dairy or they were serving meat. Whatever they were making, these would be a perfect little treat. Or, of course, they could have some friends over for an afternoon tea. These are great for any time. They're festive, they're adorable, but they're so easy to make that you could pretty much crack this out at any time. Just whip it together in a flash, and they're beautiful and super yummy. Not to mention, we're pretty much using pantry staples. We always have eggs in the fridge. We always have sugar in the cupboard. And nonpareils in my house are always in my pantry because I love them on so many different things, as did my grandmothers. My mom's mom especially, she loved these little guys and loved to use them on so many of her Sephardic-Turkish cookies. So they are ready, they look adorable, and they are going to be popping into the oven to cook. So what we're going to do is immediately lower that temperature. As soon as we put our tray in, we're going to go down from 400 and we're going to lower our temperature to 250 degrees to gradually go down from 400 as they cook. And I'm going to immediately set a 45-minute timer to allow them to bake. And they're puffing up and they're looking so gorgeous, and they almost get feet at the bottom, almost like a macaron. They're absolutely gorgeous and just super yummy. So as they bake and the 45 minutes pass, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off that oven, which was at 250 degrees now, but I'm not going to pull them out, and I'm going to set a 15-minute timer, and I'm just going to allow them to sit in that hot oven for another 15 minutes to just finish crisping up. And then after those 15 minutes, I'm going to pull them out, and they are beautiful and they're crispy on the outside. And by turning that temperature off, they remained slightly soft in the center, just ever so slightly. They have a very slight marshmallowy center, and that is my favorite part. They are beautiful, yummy, and so much fun. So I'm going to let them sit on this tray just for a couple of minutes until they are cool enough for me to handle and remove them from this tray to put them onto a cooling rack. But in the meantime, look how cute they are. Don't they look a little like French macarons? They have almost that signature feet at the bottom, and they're just puffy and beautiful and colorful and so much fun. And as I said, they can be served with anything, with any meal, and adults and kids alike are going to love these. So now they were cool enough for me to handle, and I just gently grabbed them, placed them on a cooling rack to allow them to finish cooling. And of course, I'm going to admire how beautiful they are. I'm like a child when it comes to all these beautiful, colorful cookies. I love, love, love cookies. And these are no exception. They're just delicious clouds of meringue. They're crunchy, have an ever so slight soft center, and they're just perfect to be served with anything and everything. And I just absolutely love these. So, as I always say, enough with the admiring. It's now time to plate these so I can taste them. I've let them sit on my cooling rack. They've cooled down. They're no longer hot. And now I'm going to just take them off of my cooling rack and place them onto a serving plate just so that they look absolutely beautiful and so everyone is enticed to come in and grab one. And as I said, you can serve this at any time with any meal. Just a perfect little snack, a perfect little dessert, perfect for company or for any day of the week. Now, look at how cute these are. You see what I mean about the feet at the bottom? It's just created that little edge at the bottom, just like a French macaron. So, so cute and so simple to make. Oh my. Wow, wow, wow. Not only are they adorable, they're delicious. They're puffed up and they're perfect. They're crispy on the outside and have that yummy center. These are so good and they're so easy to make. You cannot go wrong if you just have a little bit of patience. Look at that chewy center. You see what I mean about the center? It just remains slightly chewy. By turning that oven off in those last 15 minutes and just letting it sit there and just letting that temperature gradually come down, the outside gets crispy. So yummy. The bottom is all crisped up, but the center is still slightly gooey and they are perfect.
So how totally adorable do these look? And they're just sweet and like a cloud, really. Just this fluffy bit of meringue that is just perfect. It hits the spot. It's a little sweet treat for a dessert or any time, maybe for an afternoon tea or to invite a couple of people over for coffee. It's just a little something, a little sweet that just looks adorable and tastes delicious, and it really goes great with everything. Trust me. No, better yet, don't trust me. You're going to have to try to make this recipe yourself. And of course, if you've enjoyed today's recipe, don't forget to like, comment, and share. I love when you share my videos, so thank you so much for doing that. And if you haven't done so already, remember to subscribe to my channel and to touch that little notification bell so that you get notified every time I put up a new yummy, delicious, easy recipe. And be sure to explore under my video tab because I have so many recipes already up that I know you are going to love. And if you're not already following me on social media, be sure to follow me as Sally That Girl in the Kitchen on Facebook, Instagram, and on Pinterest. And you can find me as Sally That Girl FL on Twitter, Snapchat, and on TikTok. See you next time. Thank you so much for watching.
Sally That Girl in the Kitchen.